The Queen Elizabeth II has died at the age of 96 and her first son Charles is now the King. So in the course of the next few minutes, we'll give you a detailed course of events on what is to happen next, leading up to the Queen's funeral in about 11 days from now. The official announcement from the Buckingham Palace has already been published, but before it was hung up on the gates, it had been preceded by a call cascade, with the Prime Minister personally being informed by the Queen's private secretary. And now, after the announcement is made, flags across the royal residence, at the Whitehall and also at other government buildings across the United Kingdom have been flying at half-mast. Meanwhile, on day one of the mourning period, which has begun from today, a ceremonial gun salute is expected to take place at the Hyde Park and also at the Tower Hill, followed by a minute of national silence. And the new monarch, that is King Charles III, is also expected to conduct his first audience with the British Prime Minister, after which he'll be meeting with Earl Marshal to officially sign off on the funeral plans. The state funeral is expected to be held in 10 days' time. After all the formalities regarding the proclamation of the new king are done, the coffin is expected to leave Balmoral and will be taken by road to the Palace of Holyrood House in Edinburgh. And there will be a ceremonial procession which will be attended by members of the royal family, after which service will be open to the public for a period of 24 hours. The coffin is then expected to be flown to London, but before the coffin arrives, there will be rehearsals for the procession of the late Queen's coffin from Buckingham to Westminster Hall. It is expected that the coffin will be borne on a gun carriage and will be later transferred to a state hearse and will travel to Windsor. After a procession through Windsor, a committal service will be held at St. George's Chapel, Windsor Castle, during which the coffin will be lowered into the royal vault. So these, in fact, are live visuals that are coming in from the gates of the Balmoral Castle, and people are coming and laying down flowers and wreaths for the departed Queen.
But there is, as I look down the road over the bridge.
And we also earlier spoke with Raymond Vickery. He's a former U.S. Assistant Secretary of Commerce, Trade and Development. He joined us live from Washington, D.C., and this is what he had to say.
Well, I think that she'll best be remembered for her adherence to values, devotion to duty, devotion to her people, devotion to making a reality out of the Commonwealth. One of those values was a devotion to democracy, strange for a monarch, but she always respected the limits placed on her. She followed the will of the Parliament, and she followed the rule of law. She was able to deal with heads of state and heads of government on a one-to-one basis, and really was very important in international relations. The only time that I saw her was when I was a teenager here just outside of Virginia. She came by in her car, 1957. She was headed to Middleburg. She was a lover of horses, and she was going up there. But she was really here to commemorate the 350th anniversary of Jamestown, the first English settlement here. I think that her devotion to the Commonwealth was very well known. There was the one episode in the 1980s when apartheid was coming to a close, and she worked very closely with the Indian Minister of External Affairs and others to convince Margaret Thatcher that, in fact, the Commonwealth could enter into a situation in which there would be sanctions, and that helped hasten the end of apartheid. She knew everybody from Mandela to Gorbachev. She was the first sovereign after the 1917 revolution to meet with the head of state of, at that time, the Soviet Union. She also met with Putin. It's a shame that Putin can't follow her example of devotion to democracy. But I think that she was one who did her duty, and she did it day in and day out. And we in the United States, I think, respect her for that, even though we're obviously a Republican form of government, as is India.
WION is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news on the move.